You know, with my wife, I've been together with my wife for 19 years, so I've known my wife at a range from, you know, like 120 pounds to almost 200 pounds. The true attraction isn't about what we look like, it's about what kind of a connection do you have with that person.
Yeah, but it's also nice when your wife isn't obese. I think we all need to be honest with ourselves here and just admit that we're all superficial when it comes to looks, and no man or woman wants to be with someone who they think is ugly. Which brings us to one of the latest internet sensations, Claviclear.
What's going to actually get you further in life? What's going to get you opportunities in the workplace? What's going to get you, dates? It's going to be looks 100 times over, and there's really no denying that.
He's not wrong. If you want to work on the most impactful thing that will positively benefit your life in numerous ways, appearance is going to be at the top of the list. So this ideology has been going around the internet for the past few years, and it's called the black pill. Today's most successful promoter of the black pill is Braden Peters, or Claviclear, who went onto internet forums and vastly improved his looks over a few years. This is called looksmaxxing, with an extra emphasis on the word maxing because Zoomers like to add that word to everything. Now, just to get this out of the way, I don't like Claviclear as a person at all. Personally, I think he's a degenerate drug addict who is modeling some pretty harmful behaviors to young people.
An online influencer named Claviclear is being charged with misdemeanor battery.
So when it comes to online influencer, Claviclear, wait, how do you say that again?
Claviclear, or Clav, is what he's also called.
Right, thanks. So when it comes to online influencer Claviclear, I don't like him as a messenger, but me hating the messenger doesn't mean that every part of his message is incorrect. And I also can't deny that the message is resonating with people because clearly it is based on how often he goes viral. The question is, why?
I care deeply about the struggles of the average male being unable to even find like a romantic partner. And I think that that's something that needs to be advocated for more than any political movement.
Yeah, so I think a big part of Claviclear's fame is because he's appealing to men who have been treated like shit, because they've grown up being lied to about the ancient wisdom of being attractive matters. Understand that not that long ago, everyone knew this. It is so a part of the culture that C.S. Lewis wrote a children's book like 70 years ago, where when people die and go to heaven, they get more attractive. I mean, they used to think that sinning made you ugly, which is basically true because people will treat you as if you have sinned if you're unattractive. So C.S. Lewis wrote a series to say, nah, they don't have uggos in heaven. And apparently, according to people in my comments, C.S. Lewis was even more explicit about this in his book, The Great Divorce. But understand that Claviclear is popular because he's hitting popular pain points in society pretty frequently. For example, there's a clip of him running over a guy who was blocking his Tesla, and it went viral.
Is he dead?
I don't know.
Hopefully.
Should he have done that? Probably not, but the reason that this moment resonated with a ton of people is because everyone's tired of idiots blocking the road. But outside of that, and outside of him going viral for degenerate reasons like shooting a dead alligator in Florida, the main reason that people are supporting him is because of stuff like this.
You're a content creator, you're streaming all the time. You think that if you were not physically good looking, you wouldn't have as much success?
No, I wouldn't at all.
Even if you were like a genius, like Beethoven level creative, but you were busted, you don't think you'd pop off?
Well, that's the thing. So now you have to be so well off in another category to compensate for your lack of looks that you have to be a Beethoven level player in order to compete with a guy who's, just like, mogging and going to the club. It really gives people a huge advantage in life to have looks on their side.
Yeah, I think it's definitely true.
Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't build skills or a personality or be a good person. All of those things are very important, and they should never be sacrificed. However, ignoring the importance of appearance is completely retarded. You need to do what's in meta. I'll say it like this. Imagine you're playing a video game. I'll use Expedition 33 as an example because recently I was looking at the meta for this game a lot. Expedition 33 has some pretty tough bosses, and you can get in there and memorize all of the attacks, do a little bit of damage at a time, and eventually you'll come out as victorious. Or you can develop a deep knowledge of how the game works, set your characters up properly, and do like 1 billion points of damage to the boss and kill it instantly. Yes, there are many ways of getting stuff done, but if you're playing a game where your life is on the line, then why would you not use the most effective build?
If I had to date in the year of our Lord 2025, I would be very upset. I would have to learn how to mog, I would have to learn how to mew, I would have to learn all these skills that I don't possess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that the main reason that is because of Instagram. Maybe you had a girl from your town who's going to try to date above her looks level, maybe just in her immediate surroundings. But now we've got people like,
professional athletes, DMing them on Instagram, flying them out. So you're not just competing with the top Chads of your 15-mile radius, you're competing with the entire world.
I'm not really sure about the whole Instagram argument. I've never seen that with regular women. However, I have seen it with social media influencers. But whether the Instagram thing is actually affecting women's perception of the dating market or not, it's clear that dating apps are, just for the simple fact that it's giving you access to people that are as far away as you are willing to drive, versus in the past, you would really only date people in places that were convenient for you to regularly visit. So your competition jumped by 5 or 10 times. And even though personally I despise dating apps and I think people shouldn't use them, that doesn't change the reality that tons of people do and tons of women do. Because dating apps are like drugs for women's ego, just like porn is a drug for men's dopamine system. Really, I think porn and anime camera angles are a major contributor to the incel problem. So whether you like this reality or not, because our perceptions are all warped from porn and dating apps, everyone's got to level up, at least a little bit. It's time to return to tradition and start being more superficial about our appearances, instead of allowing like 70% of Americans to be fat slobs.
I'm attractive. I never get hit on. Ever. And I'm a flirty girl. I'm a real flirty girl. So, like, if somebody hit on me, like, in line at the store, I'd be all about it. Nothing. I never get fucking hit on. And I don't know why. I would love for someone to give me, like, the actual genuine reason why it drives me fucking crazy. Like, hit on me.
Oh, this one's easy. Take out the nose rings and get braces. She doesn't have to change that much to significantly improve her appearance. And stop acting so desperate. And look, I'm not saying that everyone has to chad the hell out and spend all day on looksmaxxing forums. That's not realistic. And sorry to be mean, but no amount of internet forums is going to turn a person like this girl into a 10 anyway. But there are things that will make her look significantly better, like a different hairstyle. Look how much better that looks. Second would be getting rid of the acne. I know that's a lot more difficult for women than men, but too bad. Third, like the other girl, get braces. 4, never do this makeup style again. Men hate this. Personally, I don't think men actually hate makeup. That's a lie from Red Pillars. For example, this woman is wearing makeup in both cases.
Imagine going live for a video, having to put on a fake face of no makeup before you put on the extra layer of real makeup.
So she's wearing makeup in both examples, yet one is complimented and the other is not. What men actually don't like is this style of makeup that was popular in the 2000s. And it's the same for this girl too. Men like makeup that looks like you aren't wearing makeup. And last, going back to that prior girl and going into the next topic, I would say that she has a little bit of a double chin. If she's not fat, then I believe she can get liposuction or some sort of injection for that. Sometimes thin people have double chins, and the only way to fix that is surgery. Understand that facial aesthetics is the most important thing when it comes to physical attractiveness, so the investment might be worth it. But if she does those things, then we have a way more attractive person who will have a much easier time in life on tons of different metrics. Now, before we hit the next topic, I don't see why there's such a recoil on people trying to improve their appearances.
We've talked about maybe a neglect of the spiritual maxing, but what about even like book maxing? What about even cultivating loves for art or culture or things that yet again are not exactly physical, which make you interesting and will make girls find you interesting?
I get that people can be obsessive about the way they look, and we'll talk about that, but are you going to tell me that people should channel spirituality or become a master at a skill at the sacrifice of learning something much easier, like learning what clothes to wear or how to style your hair? Note that physically attractive people tend to have more friends, so that will give you better access to learning spirituality or a skill. Hell, most things that will make you more attractive are also things that are good for your health anyway, like losing weight, building muscle, fixing your posture, getting good sleep, chewing gum, brushing and flossing your teeth and cleaning your tongue, taking care of dust, animal hair, and pollen allergies, and not using recreational drugs because those will age you. And despite all the people making fun of Claviclear for hammering his face, which, yeah, that's retarded, but despite that, it's nice to see the strong return to form on how important attractiveness is in recent years. Probably the best example is that new One Piece series. I mean, holy shit, everyone hit the gym hard for that show. Even the canonically fat girl who turns thin in the anime hit the fuck out of the gym in real life. Welcome back to old Hollywood, where very few people on screen are ugly.
I'm getting a double jaw surgery in a couple weeks from now. So that's probably the furthest it goes, is plastic surgery.
To be clear, I think Claviclear is retarded for wanting plastic surgery. No homo, but he's already there. He doesn't need any more looksmaxxing.
Why are you doing that? You're a good-looking guy.
Well, because I want to look better.
Look, I would get it if you looked like some mutant and you had some deformities and it was really messing up your life. But you're tall, muscular, you've got defined bone features. Why do you need to go further?
Well, just because you're already doing okay or you're well off, is that a reason to quit? Is that a reason to sort of put the brakes on? That seems a little ridiculous.
Again, he's being stupid. However, that's not to say that things like pharmaceutical enhancements and plastic surgery don't vastly improve people's appearances. This picture has been going around the internet recently. A little finasteride could have saved this guy's life. As for plastic surgery, it's the same thing with the makeup cope. Guys don't hate plastic surgery. The same guys who will shit on plastic surgery will go goon to Instagram models with like 5 obvious BBL surgeries. What people actually don't like is bad plastic surgery. Like buccal fat removals, that shit should be outlawed. Who is telling women that this looks good? However, when it comes to things like nose surgeries from a competent surgeon, holy shit does it make a difference. Again, facial aesthetics is the most important thing when it comes to being attractive. Like, I don't see why this is some sort of big spiritual crisis to want to look better. I can see why there may have been philosophy around this in the past, but in these days, we have technology that will fix tons of these issues. The only place where I would say it's a real problem is if you have a plastic surgery addiction. Plastic surgery can be addictive for some people, so you gotta know when to leave the table and cash out. Otherwise, you'll end up looking like a disgusting mess. For example, if you get so much plastic surgery that you end up looking like the Wizard Liz by the time you're 26 years old, I'll be honest, I'm going to make fun of you, because I care and I don't want other people following in your footsteps. Now, as for the drugs, first, speak to a medical professional, and I will say that stuff that will heavily enhance your appearance, like Accutane or finasteride, are not harmless. Accutane is for acne, and finasteride is to stop hair loss. So I will say that these drugs do have side effects, I'm not going to deny that, but I think the side effects of both are vastly overstated, unless you're a woman. Sorry, looksmaxxing for guys is much easier. But both of these drugs are decades old, they're well studied, and for the most part, they're incredibly safe if you work with a doctor and understand the limitations of the medication. I will say that if you want to weigh your options, there are probably lots of things that you do that are worse for you than Accutane. Again, I think it's stupid to ignore appearance.
You ever see young Hillary, like pictures of younger Hillary?
She wasn't too bad.
Can I say something that's going to get everyone mad? I think she actually looked pretty good, young Hillary.
Not good enough to stop Bill Clinton from cheating on her.
I'm sorry, that clip wasn't necessary. I just hate Hillary Clinton, and I thought the statement was funny. Now, as for a final point from Clav, I actually think at this moment, he was spot on.
I'm saying for young men to succeed, they need to put themselves in the forefront, and all the other stuff about, society, the direction it's taking, that needs to take a back seat for their individual struggle, because they're really not doing well. Men are doing worse than they ever have, and almost every metric. And the only way to overcome that is just focusing on oneself to the maximum. And there's no place for any of the stuff that, you're talking about in that mentality.
He's right. If you're 18 and your life isn't going well, then doom-scrolling politics on the internet is not going to help you. And also, your opinions for society at large aren't particularly useful if you don't have your shit together. I didn't show it, but Michael Knowles spends so much effort pushing back on this sentiment from Clav. However, this is exactly what Jordan Peterson was saying 10 years ago, before his daughter destroyed his reputation. If you're asking how to create political change and make society better, then understand at 18, you don't have the power to change shit. Build yourself up, learn more about the world, and then you can help turn where you live into a better place. Anyway, it's time for some nuance. I mentioned before that I really don't like Claviclear. There's a number of reasons for why, but for this last part, I want to ignore most of the drama and just focus on the stuff that's in my area of expertise.
I don't really like to talk on any issues I don't have too much authority on.
Right, that's a very mature thing to say. Honestly, I don't think he's stupid. However, what I do think is that he's promoting some horrendously dangerous behaviors to a lot of people unnecessarily, not because he's a looks maxer, but because he's a drug addict looking for an excuse to use.
You do meth.
Yeah, I haven't done meth in 2 weeks, but I do meth, yeah. Stimulants cause appetite suppressants. I'm trying to maintain my leanness, because the leaner you are, the more angular your face. And while I do use GLP-1s, sometimes that's not enough to suppress my appetite. So I need to, rely on stimulants.
What? I mean, you could just not be a pussy and deal with being a little bit hungry. You're telling your audience to follow in your footsteps, right?
I advocate against stimulants. I don't think that kids should be prescribed Adderall at the ages they are.
Yeah.
I think that people are going to misuse their stimulant prescription more than not, in more cases than not. So I'm very against it. I'm just open with everything that I do. I don't openly advocate for anyone to do this, right? I think a lot more people are going to wind up fucking themselves over, or excuse me, screwing themselves over if they are to go this route rather than, if they were to decide, to stay natural.
Oh, right. So this guy's a real philosopher. He's a real do as I say, not as I do type of guy. Gee, no one's ever thought of that before. Clav, you know that doesn't matter, right? People aren't going to listen to you saying, yeah, don't do this thing that I did that totally worked. It's bad for you. That's not how people behave. For example, you have Trainwreck out here who profited like hundreds of millions of dollars by promoting gambling on his stream. But don't worry, guys. Trainwreck said that gambling is bad for you.
Do not gamble. Do not start. Gambling is entertainment and entertainment only. You won't break even. You won't win. You won't do any of that. Do you understand? You will only go into debt and ruin your fucking life. I do this because I fucking love it. I do it all the time. It's entertainment for people who can afford it. And that's it. You will lose.
Guys, learn human psychology. If you're watching Trainwreck's stream, you're probably a gambling addict. I hate gambling, so why would I be entertained by some loser playing slots? More importantly, what gambling addict doesn't know it's bad for them? Of course they know it's bad. They can't stop, and watching people gamble triggers them to use, just like an alcoholic early in recovery gets triggered by watching people drink. I'm almost certain that Trainwreck just said that to cover his ass, and not because he genuinely has empathy for addicts. Though, honestly, if addicts are going to do stupid shit, that's their choice, I guess. I really don't have a lot of sympathy for people who are choosing to continue their pathological behaviors. But outside of that, what Claviclear is actually doing here is giving meth heads a justification for using.
If you say don't do what I'm doing, why are you doing it?
Because I have enough willpower to be able to taper off of meth.
You're going to tell me that you don't have enough willpower to deal with a little bit of hunger, but you do have enough willpower to taper off addictive drugs? This is ridiculous cope. Every addict says, but I can control it when they do drugs. And actually, because he's young right now, he probably is able to limit his intake, but it won't always be like that.
Your social experience in school, though, how was that?
What age range are we talking about?
I guess like right around 13, 14 is what I'm thinking.
Well, that would have been during the pandemic, so I was in online school.
Wow, I did not realize how young 19 was until he said he was like 14 during COVID. He also started taking testosterone around that time that he bought off the internet, so he might have been a victim of the Keffel-sponsored drug trafficking website for transgender kids. Also, Keffels never went to prison for that. I believe nobody got in trouble for it. By the way, this guy goes on testosterone for 5 years for the extreme glory of being able to bench 135 pounds.
Get it, 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 get it. No. There you go. Almost. Fuck. Was that
For context, this was clipped for Twitter out of context to make him look worse, but I believe he benched it 7 times, not twice. Still, holy shit, you are really weak for a guy who's on steroids. I mean, Mumdani is not that far behind you. It doesn't take that much work for a guy to bench over 135 without steroids. And I do want to tangent on this for a second because some guys think they need to gym cell for like 2 hours a day to build muscle. That's not necessary. For one, from a looksmaxxing perspective, most women hate the super muscular look. Second, you can get a pretty nice physique and lift pretty heavy amounts of weight after some time by doing a total body workout with 2 sets of 6 to 8 reps per exercise with a 1 to 2 minute break in between, and be in and out of the gym in around 30 minutes depending on how crowded it is. Do it 3 times a week. And this will build your muscle at least until you are maximally attractive to women. So this is not horrendous amounts of work, and unless lifting weights is an extreme hobby of yours, you should not be doing these crazy long workouts. There needs to be less discussion of what Mr. Olympia is doing and more discussion about what the most time-efficient thing to do is, especially for people who are nowhere near their genetic potential. You can get away with a lot if you aren't close to maxing out. But also, believe it or not, these are not the only drugs that Clav uses. And of course, he's got a moral cope for it.
I don't really think that people should be drinking and doing recreationally for the most part, and I know that would appear super hypocritical because I do it a good amount, but it's just something that I utilize for my work, for my content, because I can't really like function around people too well or be super entertaining in my sober state, I think.
Using drugs to manage emotions is key behavior of addicts. That's like the #1 reason that people can't quit drugs. Let me just go on another self-improvement tangent here, because a lot of kids who are in school during COVID, like Claviclear was, have extreme levels of social anxiety, and you do not need drugs to solve this problem. You need meditation. And what I mean by that is that to get rid of any anxiety issues, all you have to do is learn how to bring your mind away from whatever thoughts are causing you the anxiety. If you can distract yourself with something else and stay focused on that for an extended period of time, the anxiety will go away, and when you get good at that, you will no longer have anxiety issues. Anxiety is actually an incredibly simple problem to solve. You know, maybe delete TikTok off your phone if you want to learn how to maintain focus for long periods of time. But like I said, make no mistake, Clav is an intense drug addict, and he is just coping.
The worst time I got exposed for my .org threads is I used to document literally everything I did back in 2024 at work. And someone sent all my .org threads to one of my managers about me being drunk pretty much every single day, me constantly being high on blow at work all the time, just outlining all my degeneracies, how I was basically slaying. The thing is, I was so good at my job that I could do that. I could get away with being drunk literally every day.
Right, so he was frequently doing drugs, but he was able to do them at work, so I'll wait for him to call himself a functional addict. But I think you guys get my point. My primary issue is not the looks-maxxing ideology that made him popular. It's the fact that he's choosing incredibly short-term and dangerous solutions to his problems, and then promoting them to tons of people. And worse, he's doing those things to achieve success and results that he could easily achieve naturally. Because the reality is that becoming successful is the part that's simple, especially in terms of social media. Lots of people go viral and then flame out minutes later like the Haktua chick. The hard part is sustained success. The hard part is taking these little victories and turning them into a 10 or a 20-year career or longer. But everything Claviclear is doing is short term. And what I mean by that is that the odds of him having a catastrophic downfall or the odds of him experiencing heavy complications from drug addiction is very high. The way you actually sustain success and not become one of those losers who eventually blames the algorithm for low views the minute that people start getting bored of them is to take the long route that is slow and boring, but provided that you take the time to learn and understand the principles of success in your market, it will result in explosive growth once you've paid your dues. A decent book that lists a lot of the principles of sustained success, it's called Good to Great. You'll do a lot better listening to people who have been successful for a while than to listen to someone whose game plan is to take a bunch of chemicals that are very likely to destroy your life with addiction or cause you to die young from an overdose. Anyway, thanks for watching, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.